To optimize the camera for a night portrait, you can set the appropriate scene mode, or for more control over camera functions, you can use the Aperture Priority mode instead. You'll want to set the flash, and as always, set the appropriate white balance. Let's get started by setting the appropriate scene mode. Turn your mode dial to SCN. In the back, use your navigation buttons to move the highlighted field until you get to Night Portrait. Then press Set. With the Night Portrait scene profile activated, you're ready to take your picture. The flash is properly set, and the focus is set to Face Detect. Go ahead and compose the image the way you want it. Press the shutter button halfway to lock focus on your subject, then press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the shot. If you're more comfortable using the single area focus option, such as I am, press the Quick menu button right down here, and move over to the Focus mode, and go down to select the Single Area option. Now press Set or the Quick menu button to escape the Quick menu, and you'll have the brackets in the center of your frame. Now you can place these brackets over your subject, press the shutter button halfway to lock focus, then recompose, and now you can press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the shot. If you want to have more control over camera functions, such as white balance, I recommend using the Aperture Priority mode instead. To set the Aperture Priority mode, turn the mode dial to A. Aperture Priority allows you to set the aperture you want to use while the camera sets an appropriate shutter speed. The aperture setting is displayed right down here at the bottom. Press the exposure button right here to highlight the aperture value. Now use either the right or left navigation button to change this setting. Because this is a portrait, I want to set this to a smaller aperture value, or a larger aperture. So I'll use the left navigation button to change this setting to f3.3. An aperture of f3.3 will allow me to get the subject in focus while blurring out the background. With the proper aperture selected, go ahead and press the exposure button again. Now I want to make sure the flash is properly set. Press the flash button right here, or the right navigation button, and go down to Slow Sync Flash. Then press Set. The Slow Sync Flash means the camera will use the flash to illuminate the subject in the foreground, but it will also keep the shutter open long enough to expose for the ambient light in the background. Now you want to make sure the proper white balance is set. Press the Quick menu button to access the Quick menu, and move over to the white balance option. Because we're using the flash to illuminate the subject in the foreground, I recommend using the daylight white balance option, even though the ambient light is not a daylight source. Go ahead and press Set to escape this menu. And now you're ready to take your picture. If your image stabilization is set, such as mine is right now, your shutter speed will probably not be any slower than 1/4 of a second, which is fine because you're taking a picture of a person and you don't want to have any movement in the final image. However, if the subject in your scene is completely dark, you can afford to have a longer shutter speed. A longer shutter speed will also result in a more creative looking picture. Go ahead and press the menu button to access the main menu, and go down until you access the Stabilizer menu item. Then move to the right and choose Off, then press Set. Press Set again to escape the main menu. Now with the stabilizer turned off, when I press the shutter button halfway, you'll notice that if you're in a very dark situation, the shutter speed will be slower than 1/4 of a second. Whether you use or disable the stabilizer is up to you. Just as with any other picture, place the focusing brackets over the subject. Press the shutter button halfway to try and lock focus. This will be very difficult because of the low light. Once the focus is locked, recompose the image the way you want it in the frame. Then, press the shutter button gently the rest of the way to take the shot. Remember, it's going to be a long exposure, so keep the camera as steady as possible.